you are. Really, I need you to survive. One more time. You are important to me. I need you to survive.
So I told our children this morning that, we had to imagine that there was a time where all the people were in one place and spoke one language, because of course diversity has been the way of things since the beginning of time. And imagine that these people thought that they were united because they all spoke the same language, looked the same, had the same customs. But if they were people, they were still having the same problems that we having today, getting along. There were still tensions, still plenty of infighting amongst them. And that's probably how they came up with this idea. Well, we're gonna build this big tower, have that same project, and that will be a sign of our unity, and that tower will hold us in place. And so God actually gave them a gift, because funny enough, that tower didn't seem to solve all their problems. He gave them the gift of different languages and different customs and different cultures, so that they could learn that if they actually did want to be held together, it was only through appreciating their differences that they would do that. That they would only come to their unity through the channel of God, through love between them. So it's election season, and that's a pretty good little foundation for a preacher to work with. Having that kind of diatribe going on in the background, and we have this Tower of Babel story, and the most obvious critique in this time of the primaries, particularly this extremist time, is of those who actually openly decry our diversity, right? Who seem to long for some mythic days gone by that they think actually may have been here on this land before, apparently, according to this amazing spin in their history, black and brown folks made a home here in this country. Right? I mean, there are still some who would add stories to that ivory tower, that amazing American Tower of Babel, right? We've had to deal with for a long time. But though that threat's real, I mean, all too real, right? In a way that we're still trying to, what? Is this happening? Are these words being said? And we must, who see that clearly, we must be counted. We must, especially with an election day coming up on Tuesday, we must tell a different story with our voices. But look, I'm not personally feeling called this morning, though. I'm not personally feeling the need of this community gathered here to nudge you in that direction, all right? So, because I think, and I'm grateful for this, that you are naturally already moving in that direction. So I want to address a slightly different and a more subtle, I think, level of meaning that I draw, at least, and I find applicable to us from this ancient story. See, I want to suggest that we progressive-minded Americans, if we can call ourselves that here, have also been busy building a pretty grand, Babelesque tower. Babelesque. Of our own. Well, we wised up a bit, so much we might have even outsmarted ourselves, because we've been building a tower to honor our great unity and diversity. Well, I mean, why not, you might ask, right? That's good, isn't it? It's the theme for this month. Well, you see, I want to suggest that we've become so committed to telling this story of this tower of unity and diversity that we've given up on the priority of the truthfulness of this story. We've actually forfeited the depth of our actual diversity. We've traded in our discomfort amidst the inevitable discord on such an authentic journey to the possibility of unity, of real unity, for a more comforting story of unity and in diversity that we are already enjoying here and now. Are you following me, church? Are you with me? Because where I'm headed, it isn't toward all that easy a truth. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of you said, I'm not sure if I'm going to follow you in that direction this morning. I mean, especially when we compare this with the extremist diatribe that we're being so reliably gifted here during this election cycle. Why wouldn't you thirst for that story of unity amidst our diversity? Even if you know, okay, we're a long way from getting there, but is there really any harm in celebrating it now like we did in the King Parade this year? One race, the human race, yay! You know? And it does us some good, right? Oh, just don't you remember, though, like how refreshing it was, for example, amidst the election season in 2004, when we heard this powerful kind of storytelling out of the mouth of a young Illinois congressman, a man who would become our president, when he painted his vision of a purple America at the Democratic National Convention in 2004. Do you remember that moment when he took the stage? I was working at that time, actually on the campaign. I was running a director of a canvas operation for the Democratic National Committee, street canvas, door-to-door canvassing, nothing too. That's what that word canvas means. But I had my little crew, and I was in it. I was in the heat of it. I was so amped up to defeat Bush, so amped up for change that I had myself excited about electing John Kerry. Yes, I did. Yes. But then, into my young, burgeoning liberal world walked a real hero. There he was, and I think we knew it right away. We saw what was possible, who we might be seeing standing before us. But I want to offer Barack Obama's words for our consideration anew today, words which were like manna from heaven to my ears at the time, for us to get real about them anew today, because I think it's important that we be real with one another, especially here at church. And I was thinking about having, a little clip of Barack Obama doing his own thing, but I knew we would get all so swept up in what he was saying. We won't have anything else to listen to after that, and nostalgia. Be like, no, he's right, come on. And B, I'd deprive myself of the opportunity to try my hand at some of Barack Obama's words. So, I said, okay, all right. So here's some of what he said that day. He said, for alongside our famous individualism, there's another ingredient in the American saga, a belief that we are all connected as one people. It's what allows us to pursue our individual dreams, yet still come together as a single American family. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Now, even as we speak, there are those who are preparing to divide us. The spin masters and negative ad peddlers who embrace the politics of anything goes. Well, I say to them tonight, there's not a liberal America or a conservative America. There is the United States of America. There's not a black America and a white America and a Latino America and an Asian America. There's the United States of America. The pundits like to slice and dice our country into red states and blue states. Red states for the Republicans, blue states for the Democrats. But I've got news for them too. We worship an awesome God in the blue states, and we don't like federal agents poking around our libraries in the red states. We coach Little League in the blue states, and yes, we've got some gay friends and neighbors in the red states. There are patriots who opposed the war in Iraq, and there are patriots who supported the war in Iraq. We are one people, all pledging allegiance to the stars and stripes, all of us defending the United States of America. Come on, put your hands together for that, right? I'd vote for him again right now. I would. And he wasn't even running for office at that time. You feel it though, right? It takes you back. He tugged right at our hearts. He lifting up our diversity to defy our stereotypes and highlight our unity. He reminded us that even if we divide America up into red and blue electorates, district by district, that if we step far enough away from the map, maybe we get a kind of a satellite view down, what we actually see is purple. It's a beautiful vision. But his affirmation that there's not a liberal America and that there's not a conservative America, that there's not a black America and there's not a white America and there's not a Latino America and there's not an Asian America, that there's only the United States of America. Well, is that so? Would we want that to be so? This is, in fact, a classic example of our strong and understandable tendency toward minimization of our genuine and challenging differences so we can skip ahead to the story of unity that we're longing for. As an Obama supporter, it's strange to be finding it there in his words. But friends, what Obama actually encountered in Washington in his years there serving as our president tells an important story about that storytelling approach as well. And I was grateful that Obama felt moved to admit in his final State of the Union address just last month that one of the great regrets of his presidency was that despite his inspiring vision of unity for this country, that rancor and suspiciousness between parties has gotten worse instead of better. He said it himself. Obama, and I think a lot of us, had to learn the hard way that telling a story of unity, even as vivid and inspiring a story as that which he won my heart, probably it sounds like many of your hearts here, that telling a unity story without giving difference the respect of a more honest acknowledgement and our most, in fact, sincere attention, that quickly becomes just that. Storytelling. Because in our elections, once this primary season and worst extremist rhetoric, like the kind we're getting bombarded with now, passes, and candidates race back to the middle, or the middle-ish at least, it seems whoever can spin a version of the American unity and diversity story that the majority of voters find palatable enough, a blend of harmony and self-protection, is the one who will likely earn the right to sit atop the false tower of unity and diversity upon which they've just added yet more stories. And high above the ground of actual reality, the reality of our differences, it's not really a great surprise, is it, that they generally find it pretty hard to govern? Can you tell I've become a tad skeptical about politics in my old age? Yeah. Well, in truth, I certainly don't know how on earth I would have handled the Washington playing field Obama inherited, which was so very, very broken. Obama gave a generous nod to great presidents before him, mentioned Lincoln and Roosevelt, saying that he thinks they probably could have handled it better. I certainly don't know about that. But I do know his honesty about the brokenness and the division now, and about the limits of his own power to enforce unity is helpful. It's helpful for me, at least. But before we wade much deeper into contemporary politics, I want to take a step back and look at our storytelling habits a little closer and more personally. Because it ain't just politicians spinning stories, right? We just spent this last month looking at truth, and we've been talking about this for a good bit. I think by now we can probably all readily confess that when it comes to spinning or tweaking or massaging the truth, aka lying, we're all pretty pro. How about you guys? You got some good experience of lying over there? Any? Yeah? Okay, good. That's honest. I saw at least one head nod. He's probably the one who's like, actually, no, I don't really lie very much. But look, I ran across some pretty salient statistics on this, though. I wanted to share with you all. Threw them at the point a couple weeks back. Did you know that we're lied to on average at least 10 and up to 200 times a day? And that on average, in our first engagement with a stranger, in the first 10 minutes, we will both lie and be lied to 3 times each. We lie or are deceptive in 1 out of every 10 interactions with our married spouses. We've got a lot of interactions in a day, so. And then when it comes to unmarried romantic partners, it goes up to 1 out of every 3. And our kids do it too. At age 1, they've already learned concealment. By 2, they're pretty good at bluffing. You know, before they get to double digits, they are expert storytellers. Now forget about our double-digit friends here. Come on. Right? So why do we do it? Why? Yeah, I'm looking at some of you specifically. Why do we do it? Why do we build towers of lies? Why do we climb to these great dissembling heights to perform unity, whether in a relationship or at work or even in a church community, rather than stay on that safe grounding with our feet firm in the truth of our differences? Well, we've taken already a look at various reasons, including some that are arguably quite fair reasons. But I just want to suggest that at the most basic level, we can really bring it all back to the fact that we tell tales because we don't feel safe on that ground of our difference at all. We build these towers of power to false unity because of our fear of difference. And our fear of all the imagined conflict, disconnection, rejection, uncertainty, alienation, vulnerability that we associate with difference. Difference is alone on the playground. Difference is I just don't fit in. These aren't my people. They don't get me. Difference is where will I go if I'm not accepted here? Difference is will anyone come when I call for help? Difference is threatening. That's why, as strangers, we can be pretty quick to lie to one another. We're impatient to find that common ground, to experience some acceptance, some unity, even if it's inauthentic. It's the reason we lie more in newer romantic relationships. We're trying to build that. It's the same reason we continue to lie in longer lasting relationships, to guard hard-won, protective harmony. It's the same reason we even lie to ourselves. And you know, our brains, they reward us for this. That's right. They reward us for creating false patterns when they seem to successfully protect us. In the same way, we're rewarded for detecting actual patterns with a dopamine, a dopamine rush in our heads. It's that aha, I solved the puzzle feeling. We get that rush. We're wired for the fit. We're wired to want to fit. Amen. And we're united, at least in that, in our yearning for union, for harmony, for connection. Dr. Howard Thurman, who was Kingsman here, he described it in a little bit more of a theological grounding, saying that we feel deep within, inextricably bound up with one another, or at least that we should be, and that this is a beautiful God-given awareness and impulse. But as Thurman also says, we simultaneously also feel cut off. We feel separate. We feel our difference from one another. And this may also actually be a beautiful, purposeful, God-given gift. The story of Babel would certainly make that point. But insofar as it threatens our experience of unity and the sense of security we find in that, it's painful for us. It's a painful part of being human. So where experiencing our unity authentically seems too hard, which is often, telling stories that perform unity gives us both a sense of that connection as well as protection from the threat of our differences through the sense of control experienced by being the storyteller ourselves. Now this, of course, works out particularly well if you're the one with the structural political power to do that storytelling. That is, that if you're the one whose identity is least threatened. But believe it or not, I actually want to leave off on that a little while at least, tempting as it is, go directly there, because I want to come back to this in a more personal way. I want to keep this as close as possible to the lives we're living. It's pretty easy for us to think of examples of folks with power who are currently telling story, who've told stories throughout history, stories of unity, even explicit stories of unity and diversity that actually serve best at maintaining the storyteller's power over, not power with, others. But I want to ask you about your own story. You have some power over that, don't you? The story you're telling about your life. So let's start there. I want to ask you to go internal here for a moment and maybe help you to close your eyes even, because I'm going to ask you some questions. I want you to really listen. How are you performing unity in your life right now? How are you performing unity that does not honor the real you? That does not honor your difference? Robert Frost wrote these words, "Something we were withholding made us weak until we found that it was ourselves." What are you withholding of yourself from this encounter we're sharing? The poet Rilke put it like this: "I want to unfold, let no place stay folded within me, because where I am folded, there I am a lie." Where are you folded? Where are you longing to unfold? Can you feel it in your body even? Is there some tightness in your body somewhere? Can you locate that right now? The pain of that work, that hard work of withholding yourself from this world. I'm not going to suggest that by noticing it you can change it right now, but can you honor it? Can you find some way to bring what you're withholding with you into this moment we're sharing? Even just trying to do that in our minds, it's not easy, is it? We perform unity all the time. I know I'm an expert at it. And much of it's needed. It's needed to get along, to keep things functioning, to keep the workplace peaceful, to keep the family together while we're working things out. But when we add up all of this performance, individually and together, it matters a great deal what it's doing to us. Whenever we are not truly, fully honoring our differences, our diversity, our true selves, we are not honoring life itself. We are not fully receiving and certainly not sharing the gift of life. That's what life is. Nothing can describe it better than being so dynamically diverse that the human mind can't even begin to comprehend it. That's what Paul was talking about when he lifted up the diversity of the human body as a metaphor for the body of Christ, the body of God. And when we perform unity, when we choose to build that tower to it, we might think that we're getting closer to God, closer to heaven, but we are actually piling brick upon brick between us and God, because God isn't up high in the sky where the air is thin. God is wherever we truly are. God is wherever we are truly. And wherever we truly see one another, hear one another, and honor and accept and embrace one another in our differences, God is where we, in that way, through getting to share ourselves authentically, appreciating, being affected by, even being changed by who we really are, God is where in that way, we do experience unity. Amen. In other words, God is in you, and God is in you, and God is in you, and God is in me differently. And God is in the differences. It's a hymn I used to sing growing up. In Christ there is no east and west, in Him no south or north, but one great fellowship is His throughout the whole wide earth. We got that one wrong too. Because it's not like that. In the path of Christ, with God, with love, there is and indeed can fully be living together in harmony, both east and west and north and south and every other cardinal direction you can think of. And when we perform unity, we're basically saying to God, I don't really trust you to show up here and help us do this for real. I don't really trust you to help me do me for real, or to help me embrace others for real. So I'm sorry, but I'm just going to have to go ahead and put another brick in this pretty nice sounding unity and diversity tower here instead. Instead of trusting God to show up for us and as us, and in the gaps between us, we continue to build up false idols. Distraction at best. There's so much to set right about a world in which this has been going on for as long as it's been going on. A lot more than we can tackle today. I'm glad our church tackles it regularly. But I just want to suggest today that a first step on this journey to actual unity and diversity is really and truly to be more fully who we are, to really inhabit that full expression that Caitlin was calling us to and that we celebrate at this church, even if it feels sometimes in tension with our oneness. That means we need to trust. We need to trust that we don't have to perform unity so much, not out in the world and not here. We need to trust we really are foundationally embraced just as we are. However we understand that source of unconditional love, we need to give that full, unrestrained faith. We cannot hold back in that trust, because if we do that, then we're going to withhold everywhere else. All right? Now, here's the real trick, because trusting God means seeing and trusting in God in our neighbors as well. Yes. So we need each other's presence and love to be able to be who we each really are. We need to experience that foundational embrace through one another's participation in it. The way we experience it through Pastor David, the way we experience it through the chorale, through the ministers here, through each and every one of us, to be able to give the unique gift of ourselves, we need those who would receive it as a gift. And we'll say that again. To be able to give the unique gift of ourselves, we need those who will receive it as a gift. Amen. We need all the instruments to make the symphony. But while we do need community to experience diversity and even have a chance at experiencing real unity, we can't claim preemptive victory. We can't claim our communities as themselves already truly united, be it our country, our marriage, or our church. We got a lot of work to do The white folks particularly, we got a lot of work to do. It's Unity and Diversity Month, and it's Black History Month. So, whenever you say the word diversity, we're talking about black and white issues, and I gave this from a slightly more universal slant today, and that's where I wanted to start. But this doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? This does not happen in a vacuum. That's why if you see some folks on a university campus holding up some Black Lives Matter signs, or holding up Latinos Unidos, or holding up Native Heritage Power, you say, yeah, that needs to happen. But if you saw someone holding up a white power sign, you'd be like, whoa, 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 what's going on there? Because it's not just about us all equally realizing ourselves. Some of us have not been able to, structurally. And that's still the case. So we need to be listening what's holding our black and brown brothers back. We need to be listening. They can tell us. They know. We need to be listening, those of us with white identity. But here's the thing. We've been held back too. Because if you ask a group of white folks and black folks, hey, tell us some things about your race that you really celebrate, that you feel good about. Black and brown folks are not going to have any trouble. White folks are going to be like, what's good about being white? Huh? Well, they might come up with, okay, well, I'm Irish. I really like that dancing or something. But they're going to admit it's a stretch. White folks, we've also got work to do in figuring out who we are really, because we gave something up in this exchange for the power imbalance. And we're still doing work to try and reconnect with who we really are, individually and culturally. What this pink-white mixture, what that really means. See, purple's good. I'll take purple over the red and blue craziness that we're getting right now, that extremist stuff. But what I really want is the rainbow, right? I want every single one of your colors. Are you fully being your color? Are you fully seeing one another's colors? Man, one day if we could have those stars and stripes as a candy rainbow, Brian, I tell you, I would salute that flag readily. So maybe we can work on that. There's one thing that gives me hope. We used to have on our money, our motto, e pluribus unum, that expression, out of many one. I didn't check this, but we did change that at some point. You guys know about that? And we changed it to, in God we trust. Well, I think we can get a lot further with that. Amen.
Let's all stand together. You're my brother, you're my sister.
We are your church, and we are proud to be your church, or at least a church that's having a positive impact on your life. I am personally blessed to be your minister, or at least a minister who you're allowing to speak into your life. I hope you'll support our ministry and share your love beyond belief by texting LOVEBB to 41444, or go to our website. But you can just text LOVEBB to 41444 and make your gift. It's wonderful. Thank you. Be blessed and be a blessing.